What is up, guys? Welcome to the top 10 Arrowverse moments of the week, week 12. If you haven't seen my last two top 10 moments of the week videos, week 10 and 11, and you're wondering why Black Lightning is on the list, the reason is because it's a DC show on the CW, so even though it's not in the Arrowverse yet, it will eventually be in the Arrowverse. I have no doubt about that. Secondly, and this is the most important thing, is that because of Black Lightning, Supergirl and Legends of Tomorrow are not on every single week. They switch off. So, because they're not together at the same time on any given week, I have to have a fourth show to get moments from, which is why I'm using Black Lightning. So this week was average. I liked the Flash. The Flash is definitely the best of the week. Supergirl was very subpar. Black Lightning was fine, and Arrow was also, it was good. Arrow was good, and that was the week. Not a lot of great episodes. Only the Flash was great. The rest were, like I said, were ranging from subpar to good. Which is why some of the moments on this week's list aren't great moments. Like, there are some moments that are just on the list because they're good. Other moments are on the list because they're impactful to the show. But with that in mind, let's get into the top 10 Arrowverse moments of the week, week 12. Number 10 is Vigilante's death on Arrow. This is not on the list because it's a moment that I like per se, because I actually don't like the fact that they killed Vigilante off. I think it was a stupid move. We just got to know him better and they kill him off. Maybe he's not alive, maybe he's dead. I doubt he's not dead because they made a really great emphasis on killing him and probably affecting the Black Siren redemption arc, but I didn't like this moment for multiple reasons. But that's only my personal preference on whether or not I wanted the character to die. The way they actually killed him off and the execution on his killing, on his death, was actually done pretty well. Despite the fact that I didn't want him to die, he was killed off pretty well. Again, despite the fact that it was way too early after we just got to know him. It was done pretty well because, first of all, the Black Siren thing, her doubting herself and not wanting to kill him and doubting whether or not she should kill him, and that was pretty cool. And his face crumpling up like that, or rusting up or whatever, that was a pretty cool effect. It was done pretty well, but it's only number 10 on the list because I didn't want him to die. But I really can't call that a bad moment because I didn't really want him to die, unless if he's like somebody like Black Canary in season 4. Then I can. But Vigilante's a minor character, especially in the Green Arrow universe, so I can't really complain about that. So taking away all the preferences and whether or not I wanted the character to die, the death was definitely done well in a sad way, and also Dinah Drake, her actress Juliana Harkavy, was also pretty great in that scene. Number 9 is the Supergirl World Killer Dream. This is probably the only good moment on this episode of Supergirl, other than the ending with the other World Killer stuff, because the rest of the episode didn't really matter in the slightest. The only thing that mattered was this and the thing at the end, the things with the World Killer. But I like this moment because first of all, it was a cool moment seeing all three World Killers together, although we didn't actually see Pestilence's face, because they probably don't have an actress for her yet, and they did cover her up pretty well. Like, it was obvious that they covered it up, but they had to do that. They didn't have an actress yet. But seeing Purity and Rain and Pestilence all together was pretty cool, and it's also pretty intriguing because why is Supergirl having this dream? Does she have some sort of connection to the World Killers? That's why it's on the list, because first of all, it's a pretty cool looking shot, and it's pretty intriguing. Number 8 is Vigilante undercover on Arrow. This was something that we were told in the last episode. Vigilante is a double agent, and I was worried that it would turn out that he's actually a triple agent and then working for Kate and James in order to get in with Team Arrow and the Outsiders. But it turns out that this episode and this scene in particular proved and showed to me that he's actually a double agent and he's working with the good guys. And that really cemented him as a character that I actually like. Until now, he was just a pretty one-dimensional villain. We didn't know his backstory that much. All we knew was that he was Dinah's partner, but we did get to know his backstory over the flashbacks in this episode, and then all that accumulating and him being undercover and him working with Team Arrow, it all made him a pretty likable character, which is why I didn't want him to die. And on top of all that, Kate and James was actually a pretty menacing villain in this episode, probably for the first time ever. Up until now, he was only menacing when he was surrounded by his posse and the criminal cabal with Anatoly, Vigilante himself, Ricardo Diaz, and Black Siren, and all their men. He was only menacing when he was around, when he was surrounded by them. But in this episode, in this scene in particular, he was actually pretty menacing, which is why this moment is number 8 on the list. Number 7 is Barry cheats in poker on The Flash, and also basically plays poker in jail on The Flash. So I like this moment because it was so much fun. Seeing him play with the mayor who tried to kill him and Joe earlier this season, and also Big Sir and the robber who he put away in Season 1 and in Season 4 as well. It was a lot of fun. And then he uses his speed to cheat in poker. It was just such a fun scene. I didn't expect him being in jail to be as fun as it probably should be, but it's definitely less somber and depressing than I would have expected, which is actually pretty cool. And seeing him cheat in poker, using his speed to cheat in poker, it makes him being in jail feel like fun, which is insane, which is why this is on the list. Number 6 is the Team Flash versus Dwarf Star fight scene on The Flash. So Dwarf Star himself was a pretty interesting villain of the week. Usually the villains of the weeks, especially this season, had pretty boring personalities / powers, and Dwarf Star doesn't have the most original powers ever, but his powers of shrinking things were done pretty well, and it was done in a way that was really fun. And the whole fight scene with him fighting Ralph and Cisco, and also Iris and Harry, basically everyone in Team Flash except for Barry and Caitlin, it was a pretty fun fight scene, and it was done really well. Number 5 is the Green Arrow fight scene. So there were 2 Green Arrow fight scenes, one in this kitchen and one outside by the cars. And the one in the kitchen, or at least I'm pretty sure it was in a kitchen, was actually really good. I said in my review that the fight scenes in this episode were average for Arrow, and that's actually true. They were average for Arrow, but that's saying something because the fight scenes in this episode were definitely really good, especially this one. Just I love the well choreographed long shot fight scenes, even though they're probably not really long shots and they have clever tricks to cut when something runs across the camera or anything, but they make it look like a long shot, and it definitely makes the fight scenes better, and it's very well choreographed, which is why the Green Arrow fight scene, the first one of him in the kitchen fighting those people, I'm pretty sure they were either Bratva or Ricardo Diaz's organization, whatever. It was a great fight scene. But at the same time, it was an average Arrow fight scene, which is definitely not a bad thing. Number 3 is the ending of Arrow that revealed that Dinah wants to kill Laurel and the criminal cabal. The reason this is a great moment is because it sets up what I think will be an Team Arrow Civil War with the original Team Arrow versus the Outsiders. I would have loved it if Vigilante was on the Civil War, but turns out that he's not, and he's actually the catalyst for the Civil War, probably. I'm not saying there will be a Civil War. I'm saying that there probably might be. There might be. And the way that happens is that Dinah wants to kill everyone in the criminal cabal, especially Laurel, and Green Arrow has to stop her, just like how Superman wants to stop Batman from killing criminals in Batman vs. Superman. And I think that Arrow, if they are doing this, they're probably going to do it better than Batman vs. Superman, which isn't saying much, but hopefully they do. And if they are doing a Civil War, this is the moment that cements it and is the beginning of what will be the Arrow Civil War, which is why it's on the list. Number 3 is Warden Wolf finds out that Barry is the Flash, and also combining that with he sells him to Blacksmith. I'm combining it because I didn't feel like putting it in 2 different moments. They're very connected because one happens right after another, which is why I'm putting them together. So the fact that Warden Wolf finds out that Barry is the Flash and sells him to Blacksmith makes this whole subplot of him being in jail, which is not really a subplot, it's the main plot, way more interesting. That's not true, actually. But I was thinking about what I wanted to say, and what I really wanted to say is it makes the next episode so much more interesting than I expected it to be, because I expected it to be another probably Killer Frost and Blacksmith episode, because I didn't really like Blacksmith. But with this twist that Warden Wolf knows Barry is the Flash and is selling him to Blacksmith, it makes the next episode so much more interesting than I expected it to be, and it's just a great episode. It's a great twist. I did not see it coming. It's a great twist, seeing how that camera is up there right after Barry runs Big Sur to China, which is later on this list, by the way. Spoiler alert. Which I put that in a separate moment because it's not it's not as connected as these two moments are, but it was a great twist, and it makes the next episode so much better than it probably had any right to be. Number 2 is the moment where Grace Troy debuts on Black Lightning. This moment is on the list, and is so high on the list for multiple reasons, because it gives us a lot of information about the universe and about the new character Grace Troy. So Grace Troy herself is an interesting character. She's half Amazonian. She has some powers from the Amazonians, and it's pretty interesting. Hopefully they use those powers on this show eventually. And also in this moment, we learn that, first of all, DC Comics exists in this universe, and the Outsiders do too. They hinted at the Outsiders because basically everyone on this show, including Black Lightning and Grace Troy, have been on the Outsiders in the past. Black Lightning is a prominent member of the Outsiders, and the fact that they hinted at the fact that the Outsiders are a comic book group in this universe is pretty cool. But the big thing from this moment, and probably the biggest thing, is the confirmation that Supergirl exists in this universe, either as a comic book character or as a real person, which kind of confirms, if it is a real person, that the show is set on Earth 38, which is really cool. And number 1, Barry runs Big Sur to China. This is such a minor moment in the grand scheme of the season and in the show in general. It doesn't really matter because we basically just met Big Sur in the previous episode, but it's just such a happy moment. Just Barry running Big Sur to China after this failed attempt at helping him come out of prison, and then running him all the way to China, to the place where he wanted to go. It's just such a happy moment. I couldn't help but put it in number 1 on the list because it gave me a huge smile on my face. It just made me feel good. This moment made me feel good, which is why it's on the list and why it is number 1. There are no honorable mentions this week because, again, this wasn't the greatest week for the Arrowverse ever, so there weren't like 10 amazing moments, let alone honorable mentions. But let me know what your favorite moments of the week were in the comments down below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.